Right now, while you're watching this, there are about 37 trillion soldiers fighting a war inside your body. You didn't order them to fight. You can't feel most of the battles. And you have absolutely no idea how close to losing you came this morning. Case open. Here's what most people think the immune system is. A kind of security guard. Something CASO that checks ID at the door and stops obvious threats. A bouncer at a club. Maybe a firewall on your laptop. Simple. Reactive. Wedding. That image is so wrong it's almost dangerous. What actually lives inside you is closer to a military superpower with its own intelligence network, its own memory archives, chemical weapons, precision strike teams, and a standing army of billions of specialized soldiers, all coordinating in real time, every second of every day you've ever been alive. And right now, as you sit there looking at a screen, that war is actively happening inside you. Battles are being won. Battles are being lost. And some of what's being decided in the next few hours will quietly shape whether you get sick next week. By the end of this investigation, you will never think about a fever, a cut, or a vaccine the same way again. Let's get into it. To understand the war, you need to understand the territory. Your body is enormous from a microbial perspective. We're talking about roughly 70 trillion cells forming organs, blood vessels, nerves, and skin. A surface area of skin alone that, if you unfolded it completely, would cover about 2 square meters. That's almost the size of a door. And every millimeter of that surface, plus everything inside it, is a target. The enemies are everywhere. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. Some are floating in the air right now. Some are on the chair you're sitting in. Some are already inside you, dormant, waiting for a moment of weakness. The number of microbial threats your body successfully defeats in a single average day would fill a scientific paper. Most of those fights you never noticed. No sneeze, no fever, no sore throat. Just quiet, invisible warfare. But how does the body handle this without you doing anything at all? That's what we're investigating. And the first clue is hiding in the least glamorous place imaginable, your skin. Your first line of defense isn't a cell. It isn't a chemical. It's a wall. The skin is a 1.8 meter square physical barrier made of tightly packed dead cells, coated in a slightly acidic film that makes survival miserable for most microbes. The acid alone, a pH between 4 and 6, kills or disables an enormous percentage of surface pathogens before they even begin. That's not your immune system. That's just architecture. But let's say something gets through. A tooth, a scrape, a mosquito bite. Now the real first responders arrive. Within seconds, literally seconds, of a breach in your skin, a set of proteins already floating in your blood called the complement system begins to coat the invaders. Think of it like tagging graffiti. The moment a foreign cell is tagged, it becomes visible to everything else the immune system will throw at it. Simultaneously, cells at the wound site release chemical alarm signals called cytokines. It's a biochemical 911 call. Within minutes, the area starts to swell. It gets warm. It turns red. That's not damage. That's emergency infrastructure going up. That inflammation you feel, that's your body flooding the area with blood, fluid, and the first wave of soldiers. Those first soldiers are called neutrophils. They are fast, aggressive, and absolutely unsubtle. Their job is to eat everything that looks foreign and doesn't have the body's own identification marker on it. They don't negotiate. They don't ask questions. They engulf invaders and destroy them with a cocktail of chemicals so toxic it would dissolve the cells themselves, which, by the way, is why pus exists. Pus is largely dead neutrophils, soldiers who died in the assault. That yellow-white fluid at an infected wound is, literally, a battlefield of fallen immune cells. Neutrophils can kill tens of thousands of bacteria in hours. But here's the thing. This entire first wave, from the complement tagging to the neutrophil assault, is what immunologists call the innate immune system. And it's fast, but it's blind. It recognizes broad patterns of not self, but it can't remember. It can't adapt. It responds the same way to a new threat as it did to the same threat 10 years ago. It's brute force. And brute force alone wasn't going to be enough, because the enemies evolve. So evolution built a second system. And this is where the investigation gets strange. The second system is called the adaptive immune system, and it does something that should not be possible for biology. It learns. Specifically, it builds a custom weapon against every single new enemy it encounters, and then it remembers that enemy forever. Not for a year, not until you get old, forever, or close enough that the distinction barely matters. Here's how it works, and I'll use an analogy that actually holds up. Imagine a library, except instead of books, this library contains the blueprints for 100 billion different keys. Each key fits a lock that exists on one specific type of invader. Your immune system, before you were ever exposed to any pathogen, randomly generated 100 billion different receptor configurations, different keys, spread across a population of cells called B cells and T cells. One of those keys will fit almost any pathogen that will ever enter your body. The system doesn't know it's coming. It pre-generated a solution for it anyway. When a new invader arrives and breaks through the innate response, a cell called a dendritic cell, think of it as a battlefield scout, captures a fragment of the invader and carries it back to the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are your immune system's war room. Inside, it presents that fragment to millions of T cells until it finds one whose receptor fits. And when that match is found, something extraordinary happens. That one matching T cell begins to multiply. Last, a single cell becomes thousands, then millions of identical copies, all carrying the exact right key for this exact invader. It takes about a week for this army to mobilize. That's why infections usually feel worst around day 4 to 7. Your adaptive system is still scaling up production, but by day 10, you usually start feeling better. Not because the virus gave up, because a precision army of millions of cells, all pre-programmed to destroy this specific pathogen, just arrived at the battlefield. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. After the war is won, most of those custom soldiers die off. The threat is gone. The army demobilizes, but a small percentage, a few hundred elite cells, stick around permanently. These are called memory cells, and they are the reason you don't get chickenpox twice. Because the second time that pathogen enters your body, those memory cells don't need to wait a week to scale up. They recognize the threat in hours, produce millions of defenders in a fraction of the time, and destroy the invader before you ever feel a single symptom. You had dozens of these silent victories already. Threats that tried to make you sick and failed completely because of a war you never even knew was happening. But now here's where the investigation takes its first dark turn. This is Clue 2, and it's uncomfortable. The adaptive immune system is brilliant. It is also, occasionally, catastrophically wrong. To build a custom weapon, the immune system needs to learn to distinguish self from not self. Early in your development, actually in the womb and continuing through childhood, your immune system runs through an almost unimaginable training process. Every T cell that gets produced is tested against the body's own tissues. If a T cell responds too strongly to your own cells, it gets deleted, killed before it can ever cause damage. This process weeds out the cells that might attack you. Immunologists call this negative selection, and it's incredibly effective. Incredibly effective, not perfectly effective. Sometimes a self-reactive T cell slips through. Sometimes the training is incomplete. Sometimes, for reasons we still don't fully understand, a T cell that was harmless starts recognizing a body tissue as foreign, and then it attacks, and keeps attacking, and calls in reinforcements. And a full adaptive immune response, the most powerful, precise, memory-forming weapon in your biology, turns on you. This is what autoimmune disease is. It is your immune system's precision machinery, running exactly as designed, pointed in the exact wrong direction. There are over 100 documented autoimmune conditions. Type 1 diabetes, immune system attacks the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. Rheumatoid arthritis attacks the lining of the joints. Multiple sclerosis attacks the myelin sheath around neurons, the insulation around the brain's wiring. Lupus attacks multiple organ systems simultaneously. In the United States alone, about 24 million people are living with an autoimmune disease. That's roughly 1 in 14 Americans. Globally, the number is somewhere between 750 million and 1 billion people. And here's the part that most people don't know. Autoimmune diseases disproportionately affect women. Not slightly, dramatically. About 80% of people with autoimmune conditions are female. The exact reason is still debated in the scientific literature, but the leading hypothesis involves the way sex hormones modulate immune response. Estrogen, in particular, tends to amplify certain immune processes that, in the wrong context, become self-destructive. For millions of people, the war inside them isn't just against external invaders. It's their own army that's the threat. But we're not done yet, because the immune system has one more trick, one that explains something you've probably experienced dozens of times without ever knowing the name for it. Clue 3, and this one is about you personally. Have you ever noticed that when you're exhausted, you get sick? Or that after a brutal week at work, or a painful breakup, your body seems to find that exact moment to fall apart? you start feeling a sore throat coming on, or you wake up with that unmistakable heavy feeling behind your eyes, and you think, of course. Now, because you were already destroyed. That's not a coincidence. That's immunology. Your immune system is not isolated from your nervous system or your hormonal system. They are deeply, constantly connected. The signals that your brain uses to manage stress, particularly a hormone called cortisol, directly suppress immune function. This made evolutionary sense. If you are being chased by something that wants to eat you, your body needs all available energy going to your muscles and your brain. Keeping your antibody production running at full capacity while you're sprinting for your life is a waste of resources you can't afford in that moment. So cortisol essentially tells the immune system, stand down temporarily, we have bigger problems. In short bursts, that's fine. That's what the system is built for. But modern humans don't experience stress in short bursts. We experience it chronically. Deadlines that last months, financial anxiety that lasts years, a constant low-grade alarm signal that never fully turns off. And so cortisol stays elevated, not at crisis levels, just perpetually slightly elevated, and the immune system stays perpetually slightly suppressed. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon University ran a series of famous experiments where they deliberately exposed healthy volunteers to the common cold virus and then tracked who actually got sick. The single strongest predictor of infection wasn't age, wasn't pre-existing health, wasn't sleep quantity. It was psychological stress. People under chronic stress were significantly more likely to develop an infection when exposed, and their symptoms lasted longer. The mind and the immune system are not two separate things. They're one integrated network, and this is where the investigation goes somewhere you probably didn't expect. Oh wait, the thing most people treat as optional, the thing that modern culture has, for some insane reason, decided is a mark of laziness, is not downtime for your immune system. It's prime time. During deep sleep, your body produces and releases cytokines, redistributes immune cells to the lymph nodes, consolidates immunological memory, and runs what researchers have described as a kind of maintenance cycle on the entire system. One study showed that people who slept fewer than 6 hours a night were 4 times more likely to catch a cold when exposed to the virus than people who slept 7 or more hours. 4 times. Not slightly more likely. 4 times. Every night you cut sleep short, you are sending your soldiers into battle with degraded equipment, incomplete intelligence, and reduced reinforcements. And you're doing it voluntarily. Thinking about that makes me feel a particular kind of stupid, honestly. So here's the revelation, and it reframes everything we've covered. We started this investigation by describing the immune system as a war. 2 sides, your body versus pathogens. And that framing is useful, but it's incomplete. Because the real picture is stranger and more beautiful than a war. What your immune system actually is, taken as a whole, including the innate response and the adaptive response and the memory system and the hormonal interfaces and the sleep cycles, is an intelligence network that has been evolving for roughly 500 million years. The first primitive immune systems appeared in jawless fish. The adaptive immune system appeared around 500 million years ago. The complement system is even older. You are carrying in your body a defense architecture older than the dinosaurs, refined by 500 million years of arms races against pathogens, recalibrated continuously in real time, and doing all of it without you consciously directing a single move. Every pathogen you survived, every cold you recovered from, every childhood illness you got through, every infection your body eliminated before you had a symptom, left a permanent mark in your immune memory. You are carrying the biological record of every invasion your lineage has ever survived. Those memory cells are, in a very literal sense, ancestral knowledge encoded in your blood. And the vaccine? A vaccine is nothing more than your body's own intelligence network, tricked into running the full learning process, the recognition, the mobilization, the custom weapon production, the memory formation, without you actually having to get sick. It's using the system's own genius against the pathogen, not bypassing biology, using it perfectly. The next time you feel a fever starting, here's what's actually happening. Your immune system detected an invader and deliberately raised your core body temperature because most pathogens are optimized for normal body temperature and struggle to replicate in heat. The discomfort you feel is intentional. It's strategy. Your body is making itself a harsher environment on purpose. The next time a cut gets slightly swollen and warm, that's not your body failing. That's your body building a temporary battlefield infrastructure in the exact location it needs to fight. And the next time you're exhausted and you think about skipping sleep to get more done, remember that 4 times statistic. Your soldiers are waiting for the supply chain to run. Don't cut off the supply chain. Case closed. Right now, 37 trillion soldiers are fighting for you. They have no idea you exist. They don't need your permission, your attention, or your gratitude. They just fight, every second, every minute, every hour in total silence, and the vast majority of the time, they win. That's the war inside you. That's what's been happening this entire time you've been watching this video. Next case, we're going somewhere even stranger. If this one made you see your own body differently, the next one will make you question whether you're the one actually making your decisions. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss it when it drops, and I'll see you at the next case.